This is small.
It's terribly small.
But is it too small?
It's too small.
Well, I'm not sure if it's too small, but you're really not going to find a point-and-shoot camera much smaller than this these days. That's why Canon calls it the Elph. All right, get out of here. I actually bought this camera with my own money. Canon is not sponsoring it, but if you do decide you want this camera, I do have a link in the description. If you click on it and buy it through that link, I do get a small commission. It doesn't cost you anything. Sometimes that product description pops up on screen. Much appreciated. But the thing is with this camera, it goes in and out of stock often. It's a popular camera. There's not that many out there that's like this, so you got to get a little lucky.
All right, well, let's get this show on the road. At a little over 5 ounces or 147 grams, this camera not only qualifies as small, but more like practically weightless. Look, even the box it comes with is tiny. But in that small box, they managed to put in a battery charger. Dedicated battery charger, you don't see that often. The camera used to come in purple, but that's not made anymore. The lens has a 1/2.3 inch kind of cell phone size sensor with a slow 3.6 to 7 aperture. But with a 25mm wide to 300mm optical zoom, that's something your cell phone can't do. It wouldn't be able to let you see the bride and groom from this distance. Canon has another point and shoot in its lineup, the 740HS, which I did review. Now that camera is a bit bigger. It has more controls on top, more manual controls as well. It's thicker though, as you can see. It has a little bit of a grip. Neither of them have a traditional viewfinder. You both have to rely on the rear screens, except on the 740, that rear screen actually does tilt, whereas in the Elph, it's fixed. And that's unfortunate because sometimes if you're shooting up and you like to tilt the screen so you can see it, it makes it a little more difficult. But the Elph fits in your shirt.
I mean, technically you can put the 740 in a shirt pocket, but it may look kind of stupid.
You look stupid and rich.
The camera has limitations though, up to 1920 by 1080, 30p for video, or 1280 by 720 if you want to go really retro at 640 by 480.
Now you can't shoot RAW, so you won't be able to wear one of these t-shirts.
Now it may not matter to you, but there's very few manual controls in this camera. You can't use it as a webcam, it's not weather sealed, there's no external audio or mic inputs. But it's not all bad news. The camera has a really close minimum focusing distance for some great macro shots. And it comes with a built-in flash, and remember, not only at night, but during the day too, a flash can be helpful. It can do continuous shooting up to about 7 frames per second. It's not a complicated camera to use. The menu system is very straightforward. When you go into the program mode of the camera, you can adjust your exposure value, which can be helpful, which I'll show you in a second. You can set your ISO or grain level in the menu, but you can't aperture or shutter speed. Now here's a shot of the moon just taken in auto, but by lowering the exposure, do you see how much better it looks? Even though the camera has a small sensor, you can get some nice low light shots like these sunset shots, but autofocus is an issue. There is no manual focus. And especially when you're zoomed in, it can be difficult. What I found the best thing is maybe zoom out a little bit, then zoom back in after it acquires the focus, and keep your fingers crossed that it stays in focus. This is a popular camera because of its size for concerts or band performances. You see, it will get grainy, that's for sure, but you can get in really tight. I was really far away from the singer, but here again, it's losing focus, and it's a little frustrating. So if it's really dark, I would recommend trying to stay more at wide angle because it struggles the most when it's zoomed in. Now, fortunately, it does have image stabilization, and that's important, especially if you're zoomed in all the way like I am here at 300mm equivalent. I think it does a very nice job. I'm just hand-holding this scene.
Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And they're pretty far away.
The camera is pretty bare bones. There's not a lot of controls and ports and switches, although it does have on the side an HDMI output and an old school AV out, I guess for that 640 by 480 if you choose to shoot that way. The door at the bottom of the camera is where the battery and SD card slot goes. It's very flimsy and it really feels like it's going to break off at any moment. You got to be really careful with that door. Looks like it's very cheap and plasticky. Now there's a couple of creative shooting options by moving the dial on the top. Hybrid auto mode, you narrate for about 4 seconds before you press the shutter button and it's all recorded.
This is the largest store in the world with a lot of birds. This is the largest store in the world with a lot of birds.
So this takes a page out of Apple's Live Photos. Now the other setting is called Creative Shot. So when you take your picture, it's also going to take 4 different versions of that picture with like different filters on. So you can pick the one you like. I like this one the best, the black and white high contrast.
Let's take a look at some pictures this camera can produce through various focal lengths to see how sharp the lens is. And we'll also compare it to a top-of-the-line Sony full-frame camera just for laughs. Hey look, if you're getting something out of this video, please just quickly hit that like and subscribe button. It's appreciated. It does help the channel.
So at full wide angle, we see some nice sharpness, detail, and contrast, and even a telephoto, this $329 camera, compared to a setup over 10 times the price. Well, you be the judge as to the difference. There are differences, obviously. Here is your mandatory selfie shot. Now notice when you're at wide angle, if there's a person in the corner, there's going to be some distortion, so just be mindful of that. But I'm seeing some really nice detail in these images. Here again is an example of the stabilization handheld at full telephoto. So from wide angle to various shots, as you increase the zoom, sharpness stays pretty consistent across the range. Do we have to talk about the app? Okay, we will. I never have luck with these things, but I did partly with this camera. You're actually able to use the app to take some photos. It doesn't control video, unfortunately, but if you download the app, it's called Canon Connect. You can take photos and zoom the camera too. There's a little bit of a delay, and you can use it for the self-timer function. You can also transfer photos over to your cell phone, but that's the part that I didn't really have a lot of luck with when I tried to do that. First it said no images were in the camera, which is wrong. Then it lost the connection, and I just sort of gave up. I'm sure it'll work, but use this at your own risk.
You know, you don't have to have a professional camera with you to get some very cool, unexpected results. And the following shots, I was just walking around with my Elph.
The shot of this little girl scaring the birds away, and this is even a better shot, just very spontaneous. You can even crop in with this camera and still get nice results here. This camera, I think, also would be good for birding, as you can see. And you never know when birds are going to appear in your shot. I took this shot with the Elph. It wasn't perfectly in focus, but there was something about it that I liked. It has like an old school look with this guy with the mustache and his hat on and everybody with these glasses on. So what I did was I processed this photo in another program, sharpened it up, and it looks, I don't know, what do you think? Tell me what you think of this. The camera's so small, you can just be kind of inconspicuous and just take a quick photo. And, well, can't tell if she's too happy with me right here. But whether you're traveling or just doing family events or just walking around, the camera definitely is capable of taking some nice pictures and some nice landscapes, cityscapes. Skin tones look natural. Most pictures are not too over or underexposed. And you always have that fun zoom to play with too, to get in tighter and to see things you can't normally see. And sometimes you want to zoom in, well, maybe just for the hell of it.
Female visitors on the channel, we have the naked cowboy. Who needs a camera like that when you can use an Elph?
Now, it's really nice having a super zoom type camera when you live in a city like New York, because sometimes you run into the weirdest people or robots or robot people or whatever this particular individual is. And way across the street, you can get in nice and tight. So that's nice. And again, that really up close focusing too is nice even for fake flowers like this. Now, so of course the camera is going to do best outdoors in bright light. But I brought the camera into St. Patrick's Cathedral in a low light setting just so you can get an idea. And it's pretty dark in here and not too bad. Now, it does get grainy, that's for sure. But in this particular scene, this was a very dark arcade. My son playing basketball and not missing too much. And the focus not missing too much in this particular scene either. Even as we zoomed in across the way. Again, the biggest issue to me here was just sort of the grain, which is expected from low light. But the aperture really slows down when you're zoomed in. So if you're going to bring this camera to a low-lit restaurant or bar or nightclub or arcade like this, expect results similar to this. They're like, is he ever going to miss? I mean, we're just waiting around for our turn here.
So after all this, the burning question is, why get this camera when you can just use your cell phone? I mean, isn't a camera like this a thing of the past? Kind of, yes. But it just so happens that things of the past are starting to come back. And it may be that cameras like this are making a comeback. We see signs of it already. You also get a much more impressive zoom with a camera like this over your cell phone. I mean, yes, cell phones are making strides in the zoom department. The new iPhones are increasing their zooms as well, the Samsung cameras. But a lot of that is through AI and through digital zooming and cropping, whereas this is an actual true optical zoom. And there's something to be said about having your photos on a dedicated SD card and not hogging up storage on your phone. Not every picture we take we necessarily want on our phone. When you use the app, if you can get it to work, you can take those pictures and transfer them to your phone. If you're a professional photographer, well, this probably won't interest you. I mean, you can't control shutter speed, aperture, or even focus. If you want something to just literally point and shoot, maybe you're just getting into photography, you've only been using your cell phone and you want to try something different, or you like the retro cool vibe factor about this, this may be an option. The other option which I mentioned and reviewed is the Canon 740, a little bigger, a little more expensive, but a much longer zoom and some other nice features as well. Stay tuned to the channel for more super zoom, bridge camera reviews, features, lenses, old technology, new technology at Tech to Remember. Thanks for making it to the end. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. See you in the next video.